The following program contains material which some viewers may find objectionable. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Strange Things Iceberg. Today we're diving deeper into Level 4, and we'll be highlighting some of the strangest, oddest, and most disturbing things from this tier. Some of these you may have heard of before, while others are no doubt new to you. But regardless of where you lie, many of these will last with you long after this list is done. With that said, let's dive into the list together. The 1994 San Marino Grand Prix was supposed to be just another race in the season. Instead, it became the stage for one of Formula One's most sinister tragedies: the death of Ayrton Senna. Now officially, Senna died in a freak accident: a snapped steering column, a brutal impact, and a fatal head injury. But there are those out there in the conspiracy theory world that say the evidence tells a different story. A story of sabotage, of a bullet fired in plain sight, and of a conspiracy so deep that even now, the truth remains buried. Now, it's been suggested by those conspiracies that Senna knew something was wrong. His Williams car, a machine engineered for perfection, was malfunctioning suspiciously all weekend long. Electrical failures, erratic handling, too many, quote, coincidences. As Senna himself reportedly stated, "This car is trying to kill me." But there are those who don't believe the official reports, and they point to the video as evidence. They say, at 11.4 seconds, the car suddenly stops turning. The G-forces drop down to 0, and Senna's head slumps, not from impact, but before it happened. His hands go limp. The telemetry from the car shows no braking attempt at all, just an eerie, staggered throttle release, as if Senna was already unconscious prior to hitting the wall. And they say that right before Senna's head drops in the video, a distortion occurs, just for a single frame. They say this is the telltale sign of a supersonic metallic object passing through the cockpit, silent, untraceable, and the perfect murder weapon. But let's just, for a moment, see that all of this is true in these conspiracy theories. We have to ask ourselves, why? Well, they suggest that Senna's death had actually been planned that May, the foundation day of the Illuminati in 1776. They also point to the boss of FIA at the time being aligned with Nazis and suggesting that he had larger sex orgies prior to Senna being killed. And thirdly, those conspiracies point to the sport itself, and that after Senna died, F1 actually became even bigger, and thus his murder was set up for business. And these theories are just that, theories, and while some people feel there are some merit to these claims, most believe Ayrton Senna died on that track as a tragic accident, and others think it quite strange that a sniper at the time could hit a target that is less than 12 inches wide while moving at a speed of 190 miles an hour on a curved trajectory like they were in the movie Wanted. In the late 1980s, there began a string of documented cases so strange that they read like an urban legend. In 1987, a 20-year-old man wandered his way into an ER, writhing in agony. Doctors took him in, and what they discovered was a solid concrete mass lodged in his rectum. But how? The patient had confessed that hours earlier, he and his partner had been, quote, experimenting. After they mixed a fresh batch of cement, they assumed a gravity-assisted position, legs up, and inserted a funnel in place, while his partner poured the wet concrete directly into his colon. When this hardened, the result was a medical and existential emergency. But here's where things get weird. As we stated at the outset, this wasn't a one-off. It seems that there are reports, unverified of course, of ERs reporting a number of shocking concrete enema cases. So many that rumors swirl of this being associated with one or several secret societies who use this practice as some sort of initiation rite. If not, why else would so many people willingly or unwillingly subject themselves to industrial strength masonry? Whether it's a satanic ritual, a deranged hazing stunt, or just humanity's endless capacity for self-destructive curiosity, one thing is clear: some doors should never be opened. Gatekeepers hold immense power. They decide who gets in, who gets left out, and what truths the masses are allowed to see. But with that power also comes a curse. The gatekeeper's remorse, the crushing guilt that follows when they realize they've been steering people toward lies. In the corporate world, it's the hiring manager who fires a star employee on a whim, only to watch the company collapse without them. But in the shadowy realms of conspiracy culture, it's the rogue author who spent years peddling just believable enough disinformation through elaborate dystopias, fake occult histories, or carefully crafted red herrings, only to wake up one day racked with regret. These gatekeepers weren't just wrong. They were weapons. Their books, lectures, and manifestos weren't seeking truth. They were burying it, working, knowingly or not, for some of the usual suspects: the Illuminati, intelligence agencies, or some other faceless cabal. But then something shifts. Maybe it's a crisis of conscience, a crisis of faith, or maybe they finally see behind the curtain itself. And then they break ranks. They write one last book, a desperate, scrambled confession trying to undo the damage they had wrought. Sometimes this book is coded. Sometimes it's a screaming, unhinged manifesto. But the message is the same. everything they told you before was a lie. But the question for us is, do we believe them this time? Or is this just another layer of the game?
In keeping with the WSLT practices presenting on immediate and complete reports of local blood and dust news, TV 40 presents what is believed to be a thorough mental thirst. In living color, exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide.
Christine Chubbuck, 29, was more than just another face on the news. She was the story. As a reporter for Florida's WXL-TV, Christine had spent her final weeks scripting the darkest moment of her life with chilling precision. On July 15th of 1974, as the cameras rolled on Suncoast Digest, the show that she hosted, Christine went into a pre-planned monologue about serious news topics, something the show had never done up to that point. But when a film reel regarding a local shooting jammed, Christine coolly announced, quote, "In keeping with Channel 40's policy of bringing you the latest in blood and guts, we now present in living color an exclusive, unattempted suicide." Then Christine raised a revolver that she had hidden, placed it just behind her right ear, and fired. Christine fell forward, slumping down, striking her head on the news desk in front of her as she fell from the sight of the camera. Everything quickly faded to black and commercials played, and the footage itself vanished. But the horror did not. Chubbuck had planned it all, down to the scripted update on her own critical condition that she asked to be read after her attempt. But you see, depression had stalked Christine for years, sharpened by isolation, a lack of any intimate relationships, and a recent surgery that stole her chance at future motherhood. And her mother knew that Christine was suicidal, but she kept silent, fearing that Christine would lose her job at the network if she spoke out. The station itself called it a personal tragedy, but the truth was darker. Christine didn't just commit suicide on TV, she produced it. And when the screen cut to black, all that remained was the echo of a woman who turned her own death into headline news. Greg Flanagan, an oil man rich by all accounts, was traveling through Beaumont, Texas, where he got a room at a hotel in room 348. His night after check-in seemed ordinary by all accounts. He smoked cigarettes, enjoyed some candy, and was watching Iron Man 2 on the television before everything changed. During the climactic battle of the film, during all the noise and action, something very real and very lethal tore through his room. Flanagan never even saw it coming. There was no warning, the noise of the movie muffling all evidence. Just another indistinct noise in a cheap hotel, muffled by yet another loud television. But the sound was that of a bullet, a 9mm Ruger round, fired in reckless play by a drunk man in an adjacent room. The impact was catastrophic. It hurled Flanagan forward, sending him crashing to the floor. He tried to steady himself and get on his feet, but before he could reach the front door, looking for help, his body slumped and struck the carpet. He was dead before he even hit the ground. Yet when police arrived, they found no blood, no evidence, no shell casing, and no obvious wound outside a scratch on his face from the fall. His wallet was still full of cash. His door was locked from the inside, requiring management to access. The case was ruled as homicide, cause unknown, and the mystery deepened. But it wouldn't be for several years that we'd get an answer, thanks to the deceased's wife hiring a private investigator who teamed up with a local detective. They went over the last hours of his life, and they found something interesting. A pair of men next door, and a small bullet hole patched with toothpaste. Eventually, one of those two men, racked with guilt, would tell the story. Tim Steinmetz, an electrician by trade staying in the next room, told investigators that his friend, one Lance Mueller, had been handling a gun while intoxicated. One careless moment, and one trigger pull later, a bullet from that gun ripped through the flimsy hotel wall like paper, finding Flanagan as he sat on his bed, watching and enjoying his evening. It was a single bullet, a single drunken mistake, and a man dead in his room, with no clue that death had come from the other side of the wall. But the real horror of this story is that Flanagan never even had the chance to hear the gunshot, and probably had no idea why he was dying as his head hit the floor. Itai Itai, Japanese for ouch ouch, is no silly or ordinary sickness. It's in fact cadmium's cruel masterpiece, a disease that turned bones into chalk. In Toyoma's Jinzu River Basin, women who ate rice laced with mine runoff withered in agony. Their kidneys leaked phosphorus, their skeletons crumbled, and fractures split their bodies like dry twigs. By 2022, 201 victims had been officially diagnosed and recognized, but the real toll was much worse. You see, the horror of Itai Itai lies in its insidious mechanism. Cadmium ravages the kidneys first, corroding the delicate tubules until they leak vital nutrients into the urine. The body, starved of these minerals, then begins to consume its own skeleton, and so bones soften, warp, and snap like rotten wood. But you see, other regions were poisoned by runoff as well. Tsushima, the Kakehashi River, Kosaka, they all had victims too. Some showing the same telltale bone lesions, while others simply wasted away. And more recently, a new case has emerged in Akita. A patient came in with all the hallmarks of itai-itai: the failing kidneys, the brittle bones, and the endless pain. So we have to ask ourselves, is history repeating itself with a new mine runoff? Or has this poison been lurking this entire time, simply biding its time, waiting for its next victim? The mines might be silent, but the rivers still flow, and somewhere another body may be slowly turning to dust. In the early 1950s, something foul seemed to creep through Mississippi. An illness that doctors called mercritis. Now locals whispered that this disease came from the lead in the paint peeling off those old plantation homes, while others swore that it was mercury being dumped in the river, seeping into the bodies of men who worked the land. But no one could explain it, least of all the smell it gave off. Now it began only as a rumor, a reek that clung to the infected, a thick and metallic smell, like that of rust mixed with rotted meat. After this came the madness. You see, when women breathed it in, something inside of them snapped. Their eyes would darken, and their hands would twitch, reaching for knives, ropes, or whatever was closest to them. And that's supposedly when the killing began. Men were found in ditches, in barns, in their own beds, with their throats slit or their skulls bashed in. Then riots followed, but they weren't just panic. They were feral. Neighbors in the region turned on each other. Wives would hide in their cellars, while others stalked the streets, hunting the source of that ungodly smell. Mississippi itself tried to lock it all down, but the sickness would eventually spread like a curse throughout the South. And then there was nothing. Seemingly overnight, newspapers vanished from various archives. They say medical records were burned, and even the whispers were smothered. Anyone who asked too many questions about mercritis were quickly met with accidents or disappeared. The story goes that the government scrubbed it all clean, as if this plague had never happened at all. But those stories still linger, deep in the shadows. Some say that stench still lingers in Mississippi's deep backwoods. And on certain nights, when the wind blows just right, women in the region wake with their fingers curled tightly around the nearest sharp object. And that's it for level 4 of the Strange Things Iceberg. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw and care to support this channel, the best thing you can do is simply like and subscribe. And stay tuned for level 5 as we dive deeper and get even stranger and more disturbing. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you again in the next video.